The first contraction hit while my husband was kissing another woman. Not me. Her. My name is Sophia, and the day I gave birth to our twins was the day my marriage died. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and fresh flowers. I sat on the edge of the bed, breathing through another wave of pain as the nurse checked the monitor. "Mrs. Carter," she said softly, "your contractions are getting closer." I nodded. "Has my husband arrived?" She looked down at her tablet before forcing a polite smile. "Not yet." I closed my eyes. Not yet. Those two words had become the story of my marriage. My husband, Daniel Carter, was one of the youngest CEOs in New York. To the world, he was brilliant, generous, successful. The magazines called us the city's perfect power couple. They had no idea what happened behind closed doors. For months, Daniel barely came home. Every excuse sounded the same. Another board meeting. Another business trip. Another emergency. But I knew the truth. There was another woman. Her name was Vanessa, his executive assistant. I had seen the late-night messages, the secret hotel reservations, the expensive jewelry that never arrived at our house. Still, I stayed. Not because I was weak, because I wanted my children to have a family. Then another contraction hit. Harder. I grabbed the bed rail. The nurse quickly called the doctor. "We may not have much time." I reached for my phone and called Daniel again. No answer. Again. Voicemail. Again. Nothing. Then my phone vibrated. A text message. My heart lifted. Maybe he was finally coming. I opened it. It wasn't from Daniel. It was from an unknown number. Attached was a photograph. Daniel, holding Vanessa in his arms outside a luxury restaurant. The timestamp read, 10 minutes ago. Beneath the photo was one sentence. "He's celebrating with her while you're giving birth." My hands began shaking. Another contraction stole my breath. Tears blurred my vision. The nurse noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" I quietly locked my phone. Nothing. I couldn't let myself break. Not now. Not with my babies depending on me. The doctor rushed into the room. "Sophia, we're preparing for an emergency delivery. Your twins can't wait much longer." I whispered only one sentence. "I need my husband." The doctor looked at the empty doorway. "I wish he were here." Then, the hospital doors suddenly burst open. I smiled through my tears. "Daniel," but it wasn't him. Instead, a hospital administrator ran inside looking terrified. "Mrs. Carter, your husband called." Hope filled my chest. What did he say? The administrator hesitated, then quietly answered, "He said he's busy, and that his assistant needs him more than you do." The room fell silent. Even the nurses stopped moving. At that exact moment, a thunderous roar echoed across the hospital roof. Everyone looked toward the window. A black helicopter was descending onto the rooftop helipad. None of us knew who it was coming for, until the pilot stepped out, looked directly at my window, and raised a sign with my name on it. The roar of the helicopter echoed through the hospital. Every doctor, nurse, and patient looked toward the rooftop. I stared through the window, confused. Who is that for?" I whispered. The hospital administrator looked at the paperwork in his hands before meeting my eyes. "For you, Mrs. Carter." I frowned. There must be some mistake. He slowly shook his head. "No, ma'am. The flight crew specifically asked for Sophia Carter." Another painful contraction forced me to grip the bed rail. The doctor checked the monitor. "We don't have much time." Before anyone could say another word, the delivery room doors opened. 3 people walked in. 2 highly trained medical flight nurses, and an older gentleman wearing a tailored navy suit. His silver hair was perfectly combed. His calm expression immediately filled the room with authority. He walked straight toward me. "Sophia?" I nodded weakly. "Yes." He smiled gently. "My name is William Hayes. I'm here on behalf of your grandfather." My heart skipped a beat. My grandfather? I hadn't heard those words in nearly 15 years. I don't understand. William pulled a sealed envelope from his briefcase. "Your grandfather instructed me to give you this, but only if your husband ever abandoned you during the birth of your children." The room fell silent. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. The first line made tears fill my eyes. "My dearest Sophia, if you're reading this, it means the man you trusted has failed you." I covered my mouth. William quietly continued, "Your grandfather never stopped watching over you. He respected your decision to marry Daniel, but he feared Daniel loved your family name more than he loved you. I looked up in disbelief. My grandfather knew? William nodded. He hired investigators years ago. They reported everything. The affairs. The financial manipulation. The lies. I couldn't believe it. All this time, someone had known. Another contraction hit. The doctor looked concerned. We need to move. William nodded immediately. The helicopter is fully equipped with a neonatal intensive care team. We're taking you to St. Catherine Medical Center, the best maternity hospital in the country. One of the nurses whispered, That's where presidents receive treatment. William smiled politely. Exactly. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel was laughing over champagne with Vanessa. His phone vibrated repeatedly. He glanced at the screen. 28 missed calls. He rolled his eyes. Sophia worries too much. Vanessa smiled. Ignore it. He put the phone face down. I already have. Back at the hospital, the flight nurses carefully prepared me for transport. As they wheeled my bed toward the elevator, every staff member stepped aside. People whispered, Who is she? Why would a medical helicopter come for her? Just before the elevator doors closed, William received a phone call. He listened silently, then smiled. He looked directly at me. Sophia, I've just received confirmation. Your grandfather's final instruction is now active. I swallowed nervously. What instruction? William's expression became serious. He said, The moment Daniel abandons her, make sure he loses everything he thought was his. The helicopter landed on the rooftop of St. Catherine Medical Center. Just as another powerful contraction took my breath away, doctors and nurses were already waiting. The moment the doors opened, they rushed me into the operating room. One doctor looked at William. We're ready. William nodded. Do whatever it takes. This patient and her babies are the highest priority. Within minutes, I was surrounded by one of the best medical teams in the country. The lead surgeon smiled reassuringly. Sophia, you're safe now. We're going to take good care of you. Meanwhile, across the city, Daniel was still sitting in the luxury restaurant with Vanessa. He laughed as she showed him a diamond bracelet he'd just bought her. Then his phone rang again. This time, it wasn't me. It was the chairman of Carter Global, Daniel answered casually. I'm in the middle of dinner. The chairman's voice was ice cold. Then you'd better leave immediately. Daniel frowned. What happened? You've been removed as CEO. His smile disappeared. What? The board voted unanimously. Effective immediately. Daniel stood so quickly his chair crashed to the floor. You can't do that. We already did. And there's something else. Every company account under your authority has been frozen. Daniel's face turned pale. This has to be a mistake. No. It was your grandfather-in-law's final instruction. The call ended. Daniel stared at the phone in disbelief. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Daniel, what's wrong? Before he could answer, her own phone rang. She looked at the screen. Her expression changed instantly. My employment has been terminated. She looked at Daniel in shock. My company access doesn't work anymore. Daniel suddenly realized. Everything they had built together had disappeared in less than 5 minutes. Back at the hospital, a baby's cry echoed through the operating room. Then, another. Tears rolled down my cheeks. The doctor smiled behind his mask. Congratulations. You have 2 beautiful, healthy babies. I couldn't stop crying. They're okay? They're perfect. A nurse carefully placed my twins in my arms. For the first time in months, I felt complete. William quietly stepped into the room. His eyes were filled with emotion. Your grandfather would have been so proud. I smiled through my tears. I wish he could meet them. William reached into his briefcase one last time. There is one more thing. He handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a beautiful silver key. Attached was a handwritten note. For the home where your children will always be safe. I looked at William, confused. What does this open? He smiled. Your grandfather's private estate. It's yours now. Before I could respond, the hospital room door suddenly burst open. Daniel rushed inside, breathing heavily. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His face was filled with panic. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. He took one step toward my bed. But William calmly stood between us. You don't belong here anymore. Daniel looked at me desperately. Please, give me one chance to explain. I looked down at my newborn twins. then back into the eyes of the man who had abandoned us, and I quietly said, "You're already too late." The room was silent. Daniel stood frozen near the doorway. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked powerless. His expensive watch, his tailored suit, his confident smile, none of it mattered anymore. I looked down at my newborn twins sleeping peacefully in my arms. Then I looked back at him. "You weren't there when they took their first breath. You weren't there when I thought I might lose them. And you weren't there when I needed you the most." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I know. I made the biggest mistake of my life." He slowly walked closer before stopping a few feet away. "I thought success meant putting business first. I didn't realize I was losing my family." I shook my head. "No. You didn't choose business. You chose someone else." The room fell completely silent. Vanessa's name didn't even need to be spoken. Everyone already knew. Daniel lowered his head. "I ended everything with her. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right." Before I could answer, William stepped forward. "I'm afraid that won't be possible." He handed Daniel a thick legal envelope. "Your divorce papers have already been prepared." Daniel stared at him. "What?" William nodded calmly. "Your grandfather-in-law anticipated this day years ago. He instructed us to protect Sophia and the twins the moment you abandoned them." Daniel opened the envelope with trembling hands. Every page carried official court seals, temporary custody, the family estate, the trust fund. Everything had been transferred to me. There was one final document, a handwritten letter from my grandfather. "Real wealth isn't measured by money. It's measured by the people who stay beside you when life becomes difficult. The man who leaves you in your darkest hour has already made his choice. Now it's time for you to make yours." I folded the letter carefully. Then I looked directly at Daniel. "I've made my choice. I'm choosing peace." A single tear rolled down his face. Without another word, he quietly turned around and walked out of the hospital room. That was the last time I ever saw him as my husband. 1 year later, my twins were healthy, happy, and surrounded by people who truly loved them. We moved into the beautiful estate my grandfather had left us, where every room was filled with laughter instead of silence. William became part of our family, visiting every birthday and holiday. As for Daniel, he lost his position as CEO, his reputation, and the people who had only admired his success. Months later, I heard that Vanessa had left him too. The life he sacrificed everything for disappeared just as quickly as it had begun. One quiet afternoon, I watched my twins playing in the garden. The same helicopter that had rescued us flew overhead on its way to another emergency mission. I smiled, because that helicopter hadn't just saved our lives. It had rescued our future. And I finally understood something my grandfather had always believed. The greatest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's building a life so full of love, peace, and happiness that their betrayal no longer has the power to hurt you. As I held my children close, I realized I hadn't lost everything that day. I had found everything that truly mattered.